I bought all the Tabasco hot sauces that I found on their website, plus one that I found on eBay that was super rare and expensive. And I'm going to tell you how each one went with an oyster. Up first is the green hot sauce. Now, the green hot sauce is a jalapeno hot sauce, and a lot of people say it's their favorite. I'm not sure if that's because it's like on the milder side or it's not as vinegary as like the red hot sauce, but tons of people commented that they think it's the best hot sauce Tabasco makes. Now, I like shucking oysters from the hinge just because I think it's easier, and after you shuck it from the hinge, you're going to go ahead and slide the knife to the front and cut that adductor muscle right there. After you get that top adductor muscle cut, you're going to cut the bottom one, and then you're ready to add some hot sauce. So like I said, this is the green Tabasco, and it's the first taste test, and I get it. It's a good, solid hot sauce, not much spice or anything like that, and it's okay. I'm going to start off with that with the C tier. Next up is the classic. A lot of people will fight about which Louisiana hot sauce goes best on oysters. I don't know how many comments I've seen of people saying that it's the Louisiana brand, or maybe it's like Tabasco, or maybe it's Crystal, but there's so many different arguments going on about the different brands of Louisiana hot sauces that is the best on an oyster. And I think Louisiana brand hot sauces or style hot sauces do go well on oysters because of the vinegar content. High vinegar content, I think, goes really well with oysters. That's why mignonette sauce is so good. Now, a lot of people ask me if I've ever gotten sick from eating raw oysters, and the answer is no. And I try my hardest to source the oysters directly from either the oyster farm or someone who handles the oysters directly from the oyster farm to kind of lessen the chances of those sicknesses. And so that's why I'm pretty confident I won't get sick from raw oysters, but there's always some time that it may happen. Now, as far as the taste test, this right here is an A. This is a delicious combination of vinegar and heat on an oyster. The next one's kind of dubious. The Tabasco Buffalo, I never heard of before I went on their website. And honestly, I didn't see it for sale any other places other than their website. And the one I did see for sale actually online wasn't one of these small ones. It was like a big jar of it. Now, I could see this being an okay buffalo hot sauce just because when I think of buffalo hot sauces, I do think of more vinegary hot sauces like Frank's, but I just can't imagine Tabasco making a buffalo hot sauce. And then add that on top of an oyster. I'm just not sure how this one's going to taste, but I got to give it a try anyways. So I got out the buffalo hot sauce, put some on the oyster, and ended up putting way too much on there, but you just got to go forward with it anyways. I gave it a taste, and even if I put a small amount of this buffalo Tabasco on there, I don't think it would have been any better. It's a good buffalo hot sauce, but I'm not sure if buffalo hot sauces and raw oysters should be going together. And for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and put this as a D tier. Up next is this garlic chili hot sauce. I did not think I was going to like this one. I've had other garlic chili hot sauces like Texas Pete and Louisiana hot sauce, and of course Crystal hot sauce too has one, and I thought it just tasted kind of like fake. It didn't taste like real garlic, it didn't taste like fresh or anything like that, and it almost just didn't taste good at all as a hot sauce, period. And so I didn't really have high hopes for this one. Now, you may be wondering where I get my oysters from, and I actually get them from the Real Oyster Cult. I have an oyster subscription that gives me 3 different varieties of oysters, 10 of each variety, every single month, and it's about $79. Is it the most inexpensive way to get oysters? No, but I do like the variety that I get with them, and I look forward to it every month. Now, I put some of the Tabasco on top of there, gave it a taste, ready to not like this at all, and I was pretty surprised. So far, this is actually my favorite hot sauce I've tried on an oyster from Tabasco, and I'm ranking it S tier. Scorpion hot sauce is next, and I really don't believe a super spicy hot sauce is good on an oyster because it can just really overpower everything an oyster has going on. The oyster flavors can be really delicate, and that spice can just take up all that taste that that delicate oyster has. That being said, when I did the Hot Ones challenge with oysters a while back, there were a few of the spicier ones that paired well with it, but none of them had the scorpion pepper as the hot sauce they used to make it spicy. The other brand scorpion hot pepper sauces I've used are great on pizza, a little dab in chili is good too, but I just think this one's going to overpower it, and honestly, I'm not really looking forward to eating this one. So I just put a few drops on there, not to burn myself up too much, and I was right. Even that little bit of scorpion hot sauce was too much for this oyster. It was too spicy, there wasn't much flavor to it. I'm going D tier. Down there with the buffalo hot sauce. Next up is the Chipotle Tabasco, and this one again is another crowd favorite. A lot of people said they use Chipotle Tabasco on everything, kind of like the green Tabasco, so I was curious to see how it tastes on an oyster. Now, I know what Chipotle tastes like, so in my head, I don't think this is going to go well together, but I could see the Chipotle Tabasco tasting absolutely delicious on like grilled oysters or something like that. Something that lends itself to having like a smoky Chipotle flavor. But I'm going to go ahead and go with this anyways because I am curious to see where it would rank among the other ones. I get a ton of questions about what kind of oyster knife I use, and the one I'm using in these videos is called a French shucker, but honestly, there's lots of different options you have out there. One of the easiest to use is probably a toadfish oyster knife, and one of the cheapest are like the Dexter Russell ones that are on Amazon, but it really depends on the type of oyster. But for me, my favorite all-around oyster knife is this French shucker. Now back to the oyster taste test, it's a big old no. This is the first F tier. It just overpowers the oyster and it wasn't good at all. Now we're getting into some stuff I've never had before. This is the Family Reserve Tabasco. Now at first I thought it was like a special vinegar they put in there, but I think they just aged the peppers a little more, which should give it a little bit more of like a funk. And I think a good aged sauce is delicious on oysters. It adds a little bit of umami, which pairs great with the sweetness and the saltiness of an oyster. Now, if you're wondering what umami is, I talk about it a lot in all my videos. It's kind of that savory, meaty taste. A good way to kind of describe it is the taste of like mushrooms almost, but oysters don't taste like mushrooms. It's more savory than a mushroom and has that kind of meaty mouthfeel to it as well. And I just love the taste of umami. Now it was time to add some of the Family Reserve hot sauce. I put a few drops on there and it was thinner than I thought it was going to be, but still it was quite flavorful. It's like the traditional Tabasco, but I find it to have a little bit more of a funk to it, which I think pairs really well with an oyster. And for those reasons, I'm putting this as an S tier with the garlic one. Next up is a habanero hot sauce. And if you watch any of my other videos, you know that I feel like habanero hot sauces are kind of overrated. I feel like they almost taste bitter, a lot of them, so I don't think they taste well on really anything. I don't mind putting them in like chili or even on top of pizza or something like that, but as far as like a hot sauce on top of oysters, I've never been a big fan of habanero hot sauces. Now, I do have hope for the Tabasco habanero hot sauce because it's got a little more vinegar content than the other habanero hot sauces I've tried, so I think that might balance out the bitterness of normal habaneros on an oyster. So I went ahead, got this one all shucked up, ready to go, and started adding some of that habanero hot sauce to the oyster itself. Now, a lot got on there, but some spilled off, so hopefully it's not too spicy. Gave it a taste, and actually, it was better than most habanero hot sauces, but I still think it's not a great combination. But I do think it's better than the green bottle of Tabasco. I'm going to go ahead and put this as a B tier hot sauce on an oyster. And the last one is the really expensive Tabasco Diamond Reserve hot sauce. Now, if you go on eBay, you can see some people were advertising these for as much as $5,000 or even $6,000. I bought this one for $250, and honestly, I feel like I probably overspent. I'm not sure how a hot sauce actually can be worth that much money, but I was curious to see if it tasted any better than any other hot sauces from Tabasco on these oysters. Now, I think the biggest reason why these things cost so much money is because they're supposed to be like a keepsake or a memorabilia kind of deal, but also they use, I guess, better ingredients in these. So champagne vinegar is used instead of just the normal distilled vinegar, and the aged peppers, or the peppers are aged longer than a normal Tabasco. I gave it a taste, and look, it still was really delicious. Like, even though this was an older bottle, it was actually really good, and I like the champagne vinegar. Is it worth the $250? Probably not, but I do think this is an A tier hot sauce.